Thank you. Minister, I just want to talk about the Northern Access Road plans, and there's been some discussion recently about the Northern Access Road being part of the city deal, which came as somewhat of a surprise to me. So can you tell us where the cost of the Northern Access Road, how it's what the plans are for funding that, and where the reference is in the city deal to that project?
Yes, it was news to me, being a newcomer, that has been talked about since for I think just over 10 years now, but we're lucky that Mr Maloney is the project manager for that. So on the finances of it, I'd ask the Secretary or go straight to Ben for a law to explain more about the Northern Access Road, because that'll be first-hand information.
So in terms of the Northern Access Road, my understanding is that it is part of the city deal back in 2018. I'm not as familiar with its history. I've only, I guess, come on board in terms of the delivery of that project in the last 6 months or so. Essentially, there is an allocation within that budget of I guess an allocated budget of funding of 75.9 million, new funding for the construction of the Northern Access Road, as shown in the budget. At this stage, our cost estimates indicate that the project can be delivered for that sum, and we're currently working through the concept designs so we can actually prepare more accurate cost estimates and the like. So in terms of planning, it's still in its, I guess, development of the business case and final concepts suitable to then put forward the business case to government and also present a report to the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Public Works to seek endorsement of the project and take it forward. In terms of the project itself, its key objective really is to provide that a secondary access to Macquarie Point. So it has been talked about for a number of years, because any redevelopment on Macquarie Point would require an improvement of access to Macquarie Point. So in addition to Evans Street and the port, that's correct. So to enable the entire precinct to operate efficiently, it has been a project that's been talked about for some time, clearly with the intention to proceed subject to the approval of government with the stadium project. In terms of time priorities, it becomes more critical. So we're working very closely with Mac Point, also TasPorts, TasWater and also Tas Networks, who all have substantial projects planned for the broad precinct. So we're looking to coordinate our project with them. And in terms of the scope of the project, in addition to the provision of the road access from the northern end of Macquarie Point through to Tasman Highway using the existing half cloverleaf, our project also includes a scope to include a bus plaza to support the movement of people on those major event days. So again, we're working with the key stakeholders to develop up the concepts for that.
Can I just check, sorry, just for clarification, is that bus infrastructure funded anywhere in the budget?
It's funded as part of that same allocation.
Part of that parcel of 75 million.
And when we say bus plaza, essentially what we're seeking to do is provide in particular, hard stand adjacent to the road necessary to support the number of buses that we're looking to utilise, and other support facilities such as shelters and the likes in terms of the scope there.
So you said it's at concept design phase, so 75.9 million your estimates are, it should be able to be done within that envelope. Is that a P90 cost estimate, or are we not at that stage yet?
At this stage, our P90 estimate is within that funding envelope. There is a small amount of money that's in addition to that. I just can't recall the exact number, but something in the order of $4 million that was existing funding. The 75.9 is new funding. So within, let's say, within the $80 million total, at this stage, our estimates include quite significant contingencies because we're at that early concept design stage, but our estimates are within that envelope.
So can you have a P90 cost estimate even when you're at that early concept design phase?
That's, I guess, the whole approach to developing P90 and P50 estimates. So effectively, the committee, P50 being having a 50% probability of being able to achieve within that budget, P90 being 90% ability to achieve within that budget. So at a very early stage, what you do is work out your base estimate, and typically your quantity of contingencies that you add on top are quite large. So, for instance, at a very early stage, you might have to have a P90 budget, you might include 50% contingencies on your base cost estimate. So it might be, say, for instance, our base cost estimate may be $50 million to undertake the total works, and then we allow a 50% contingency, which would bring it up to the $75 million, to have a P90. And then as the design evolves, it may either stick to that same trajectory and you might stay to, say, a base cost estimate of $50 million, in which case, as you have greater certainty, your quantity of contingency comes down. Or, as quite often happens on complex projects, you identify new challenges and issues, and you then factor that into your base cost estimate. So at this stage, we feel that the quantity that's been allocated is sufficient to meet the intended scope and does allow for a number of those unforeseen eventualities that every complex project.
Ben, do you just want to touch on how that calculation is done for members? It's either a Monte Carlo analysis or risk. So I just think that would be useful for members to understand how it is developed.
That's correct. So I guess as in the case where we have more detailed designs and have worked through, basically when we're at a developed design stage, that's where we typically have sufficient information to apply more complex approaches to look at a probabilistic assessment of risks. And that's where, as Mr. Limkin mentioned, you can use Monte Carlo processes and the likes. In the earlier stages, when you're still working through very early concepts, typically what you look to is general benchmarks for similar projects interstate when they're at that very preliminary stage. Based on the experience of delivering those types of projects, you then allow perhaps more often than just a basic percentage. So I'd admit at this stage, we're still at the concept stage, so we are at this stage applying more of a percentage approach to calculation of contingencies. However, as we proceed through the development of the design and we have more detailed analysis, what we're able to then do is identify specific risks to the project. And we break down each of those risks, we identify what cost impacts they may have, what time impacts they may have, and then we apply what is the probability of those risks materialising, and then that's where you get basically a calculation of the contingency from that. So we're not at that stage yet, but as the project matures and goes through those steps, that's what we would be undertaking. And typically what you see as you have more and more information about the project, you have greater certainty, and typically your contingencies start reducing.
The cost might have gone up in the meantime.
Quite often.
Minister, on
Factor in the 30% that we heard before in increasing costs. Sorry, Beck, just to...
It is a current estimate, so it has been undertaken in the last 2 months, so it does take into consideration the movement of the civil and construction cost escalation over recent years, over the past 4 years or so, which has had that high spike in cost escalation.
And just for clarity as well, this project will go through the project assurance framework. As members of the PAC will know, we're a big advocate for the project assurance across government. We're making sure our own projects meet them. So we are complying with the government's policy decision about projects valued over 50 million undergo a mandated one. In addition, we look at whether we have high-risk projects or projects that we want to go through the project assurance framework anyway, even if it's below 50 million, to just try and give it a good test as well to make sure we deliver them as well. So this project will also be going through the relevant gates moving forward.
Minister, will this project also go through the Public Works Committee, or given its relationship through the order that's before the Parliament, if that's approved, will it not?
The Northern Access Road? As far as I know, it's going to Public Works as soon as you get to a certain stage. Could I just clarify that, please?
Go ahead.
Yes, so we've actually scheduled consideration by the Parliamentary Standing Committee. I believe we have sitting to consider scheduling the hearing in early December. So as in the early December, there would be consideration of a scheduled presentation of the report in the new year.
Okay.
Can I just explore that? So as I understand the order, anything that's on that site, it's excluded from the other processes. So you're telling me now or you appear to be telling me, Ben, that
what's your understanding?
so this will go through the Public Works Committee.
The road will. The road is separate to the stadium.
Isn't it a condition of the POS order?
So, through you, Minister, the stadium cannot start to operate without the Northern Access
And
Road
that's the
being
point
done.
we're making here, that because that's a condition in the order, the approval powers sit with the Secretary of the Department or other entities. So this is a very mixed message from what we've heard in the past. So we really do need some absolute clarity on this.
Secretary?
Minister, can I just check, just so I can answer the question carefully, what is the clarity the members are after? What's going through the order process and what's going through the standard planning process?
Well, the POS process removed the Public Works Committee. It removed the Sullivan's Cove planning requirements. It removed all of those things. It was an integrated assessment. And so, we've been told in briefings, and I'm sure others will correct me if I'm wrong, that, and the way I read the order was that anything on that site, which is reliant on for the operation of the stadium, fits under that order and doesn't have to go through those other processes. And now we're hearing something different.
Through you, Minister. I should probably elaborate that in terms of the Northern Access Road, in addition to the bus plaza and the connection to the Tasman Highway, we're also looking at improving the connectivity of the existing half cloverleaf into the Tasman Highways. There are aspects which potentially could be argued as sitting outside the remit of what is being presented to Parliament on Macquarie Point. So in terms of ensuring that we have dotted each I and crossed each T, at this stage we are proposing to present the entire package of the project, which includes the works on the Tasman Highway, which is part of the Department of State growth, improving and maintaining its existing highways, as well as a combination.
Which has to happen for the Northern Access Road to work, because otherwise you can't get the trucks in there. Let's be honest about this.
So, Minister, can I suggest we take this one on notice and come back to the committee very deliberately of what is in the stadium order and what is outside the stadium order, so we can answer it properly.
Today?
We'll need to consult with Deepak and Macquarie Point. So I'm subject to the Minister. I'm happy to take it on notice and provide it to the committee.
I'm just a bit surprised that that's not already
clear.
well understood.
Yeah.
Me too.
Particularly as Mr Maloney's indicated, they were scheduling a hearing in early December. That's actually not very far away, like 2 weeks.
Sorry, to clarify, we're seeking a hearing in early December. So, for instance,
With the Public Works Committee.
we are requesting consideration of the project, and that request for consideration, I understand, has been scheduled for a meeting in December, and at that meeting it would then be determined when the hearing would be scheduled in the new year.
So that's the first step in the process.
Correct.
Not a member of Public Works Committee, so I don't fully understand how it works. But you are. Yeah.
News to you, Dean?
The member for Hewen, as opposed to you, the member for Hewen is. But surely that initial engagement is an indication that it is subject to the scrutiny of the Public Works Committee. Is that how it works, member for Hewen?
It does, but there's nothing on our Public Works Committee. I'm only looking at the website
Agenda.
at the moment.
Yeah.
Nothing
There's public available information.
Yeah, that's right. To do with.
This is a very murky, Minister. We
Yes.
hope that you'll be able to come back with some very clear advice.
As I said, I think it's best that we take this on notice and we come back with some very clear advice.
Concerning when we're 2 weeks out from making a significant decision, that this level of clarity isn't clear to the people who have significant power within the order to actually approve these conditions, which concerns me greatly. So my follow-up question is, what else within the order then will come, Minister, are you aware, will come before the Public Works Committee? Because this is news to us. Is there any other condition or any other infrastructure related to any condition in the order that will in fact come before the Public Works Committee? I mean, including the stadium itself, because what we've heard in briefings, Minister, is that the stadium itself won't be subject to scrutiny by the Public Works Committee. There's not that layer of oversight. In fact, almost every condition for a plan that's required has vest power in the Secretary to approve, to sign off on. So Minister, will you provide clarity on what within the order will be in fact coming before the Public Works Committee? If there's anything further than the Northern Access Road, be really clear about what will and what won't.
Yeah, no, there's nothing else that I'm aware of, but I will just check with the Secretary who's running through things there to make sure the Northern Access Road was a separate thing.
That's my understanding.
And I don't know of anything else, so we'll just check on that as well, just to make sure we're right.
Perhaps you might
And
take
come
that on
back to
notice
Yes,
as well.
Yes, we will.